Am I bougie? Did I really go full on NIMBY? Let's talk about that in this episode. The newest adventure in the life of Michelle Majors on the Michelle Majors Show. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Michelle Majors Show. What we're talking about today is pretty interesting, and I'm going to give you some context first, okay? I do a training, and it's about microaggressions, and one of the stories I tell is about how I was working in my yard, and one of our neighbors came up to me. He was a white man, comes up to me and says, "Hey, wow, I feel kind of weird saying this, but I just want to say, you keep your yard amazing. I've had lots of concerns living among and, around Black people. And I look at how you keep your yard, or I look at how you roll. And, that's totally challenged all of my assumptions about what I thought." And inevitably someone says, "Well, they're just giving you a compliment, Michelle. They were giving you a compliment. And how did it become a microaggression, right?" Let's be mindful about what we compliment on people on, because everybody's yard is nice. My yard is not stand out nice. It's maintained well, but I don't know that it's, the greenest grass and the nicest flower. It's not. It's just typical for this neighborhood. So the fact that you're complimenting me on a standard that everybody has, that's the tell, right? When you compliment someone, just be thoughtful. Oftentimes, not always, often we are complimenting on something that we're surprised about. "Wow, you speak so well. Wow, your yard is so nice," when everybody else's looks like that or better. Right. So what I'm thankful for in this story is that he outright said, "Hey, I just thought it was a Black people thing. And, you have challenged that assumption that I had." Great. The second part is, when you walk up to somebody, if I pull up at a stoplight and I say, "Hey, roll your window down," and they roll their window down, and I say, you drive so well for an Asian person, or for a woman, or for a elderly person, or whatever it is, right? When you stop, somebody's minding their own business, you have now put that in their space. And what you're saying is, for someone of your class, of your gender, of your identity, whatever it is, you are doing well for that group, right? And so I think it's important to understand what you're telling people when you compliment them. Now, I'm not saying don't compliment people or make people afraid to compliment, but just think about the difference between, "Oh my goodness, Michelle, you speak so well," and, "Oh my goodness, Michelle, in your speech, here's what are some of the things that came up," or "It was so inspiring," or "It was like a description of the speech." So just be thoughtful about what it is that what we are saying to one another. Okay, I share about the Black woman decision tree. Okay. Do I tell them what I really think? Well, if I tell them what I think, now I'm the angry Black woman. I don't want to deal with that either. I like my neighbors. I like the experience I have in my community. I'll just let it go. I'm not going to even go there. Am I going to tell my then, 6'3" Black husband what he said? No, because he's going to go and be like, "Hey man, you said this thing. That's not okay. You can get killed for that. I'm not doing that. And I don't want to deal with his being irritated about it. I'm not going to do that." Am I going to say, "Hey, sir, what you're doing is called exceptionalizing. What you've just basically said to me is, hey, Michelle, you're one of the good ones. You're one of the good ones." And so much so that I am going to tell you how pleased I am about about you being one of the good ones. And I don't want to do any of that. And I don't want to educate anybody. I'm off the clock. I just don't want to. And those are some of the things that we have to do, because we know that it's going to come with some blowback. Either one we say, whatever we say, there's going to be some blowback. So we got to choose what to say in that moment, because there are reverberations, right? They continue after you said what you said. So I just decided to say, okay. And I put my headphones back on, and that was the end of the conversation. And he walked off, right? And that was enough for me. I'm fine with it. However he took it, he took it. So hold that story as I tell you this. Now, I just got on this person about, their perceptions of people and all of this stuff. And I understood where it comes from. But now here's a twist. I have new neighbors. My neighbors happen to be East African. And, just for some side context, not that it has anything to do with this story per se, but some side context is that, ADOS Black folks are different from immigrant Black folks. And ADOS, African descendants of slaves. We've learned different things. We have a different relationship with this country. We have different ways that we've learned to survive, which people now judge and label and all this other stuff. And so ADOS and immigrant experience as Black folks is very different. So there's this weird thing that I don't know that it's big enough or significant enough to have a big community forum about it. I don't know, maybe, but it's there. It's there. So that's that. I just wanted to name that because that is a real thing that happens. So anyway, they move in. They are renters. And for the first time, I'm picking up trash in front of my house and next to my house where they've moved. And y'all know the introvert I am. My home is my safe space and my happy place. And so when there are people that are disrupting that by throwing their stuff on the ground, so here I come. I'm like, okay, Michelle, just let it go. Don't go there. Just give it a minute. They're new. Just calm down. And so there are several people living over there, and there are a handful of them. There's, 3 or 4, maybe, younger folks, 8, 9, 10 in that range. So there's the trash. There is the grass has gotten to a point where it had gotten to a point where it was almost to my knee. Okay. That's another thing. So I'm having all of these things. Now be clear, anybody could have done it and I would have had a different kind of problem for a different kind of reason with it. Right. But this specific issue is just so problematic and bothersome for me because I know this stuff, because I am a Black woman, because they are Black folks, because, all of the perceptions and all of that. So I'm like, am I bougie? Like, what's happening? So I'm having all this reaction. And the other thing is their children, they play outside with no shirt and no shoes. All of this stuff. So let's check it. There are cultural differences. We're just so constricted. Like kids are more free in other places. I can see that. That might make sense, right? And so what is the image of that? What are the implications of that? What is the perception of kids that play outside with no shirt and no shoes, and they're just out, out and about, and they're not like in front of the house. They're walking around with no shirt and no shoes. Like, there's not just me feeling it. Because I'm DOS, I'm now wondering what other people are thinking about what they're doing. Right. And how's that going to blow back on me? And what does that mean? And up until this point, I was one of 2 Black, houses in the community. So I was like, okay, so that's a thing. And I'm slowly finding myself turning into the get off my grass woman. I mean, I don't want to be that person. Another thing they would do is they would taunt my dogs. The dogs are on the balcony and they're afraid of the dogs. So when the dogs are on the balcony, they, do stuff to taunt them. I'm like, don't do it. You don't want that smoke. Please don't do it. Just don't. And one of the young people responded, in a fairly cordial way, but in the response referred to me as bro. I don't get it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want young people calling me bro. And so now I'm like, am I that lady where don't be calling me bro? So all of this stuff is coming up, right? Twist. Now I'm hearing murmurings and feedback that the other neighbors are having issues too with this family. And I'm noticing how it happens. The mutiny happens. I'm watching it's starting, and they're talking about, well, we'll just tell the HOA and all this other stuff. Now I become mama bear. Now first I was just like, get off my grass. Now I got to go in and protect them, because as Black women, what we do is we protect people even when we barely holding on to protect ourselves. So now I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. So I called the owner. The owner is East African. I called him like at 9 o'clock and said, hey, I just want to pro tip. Just want to tell you, here's what's going on. Do you want me to contact them directly about their grass, about the litter? How do you want me to proceed? Because people are starting to talk about it and we want to head this off. We don't even, these people ain't been here 3 months. Do we want to you know, give them a fighting chance before they're the other people in the community, right? And all that other stuff. So I called him at 9 o'clock. I talked to my, my yard guy. Maybe we can coordinate something with them and all these things. And by the time I finished my day and got back to it about 4 o'clock, the yard was done. The garbage was picked up. Right. And so there's that other piece of sometimes you just got to communicate. Sometimes it's as easy as saying, hey, let me just put you on game. Everything was done. And moving forward, my yard guy is going to do both of our yards. It's a win for him. It's a win for them. It's a win for me. Everybody's happy, right? But had I gone to the HOA or had I gone to something, which I promise you I did want to do at one point, because I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to deal and go over there and tell folks, which here's my judgments and my stuff is they should know better. They should know, they can see what their yard looks like and they can see what everybody else's yard looks like, right? Sometimes just taking the minute just to say, hey, let me just tell you what's going on. And when I went over there and talked to the neighbor, she was like, I didn't even know there was an HOA over here. Like I never see, and I'm like, yeah, I know there is an HOA and they can be kind of funny. And so I just wanted to, let you know. And so now we got all that worked out. I'm learning a lot about myself. I am learning that, yes, I come baked in with all kinds of shoulds and shouldn'ts, judgments and values. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You should know better. You shouldn't have your kids out here in the streets with you shouldn't all over people, right? And we can't make assumptions that people know anything that we think they should, or that even they have those same values. Maybe the values are more about, I want my kids to be able to play and be free. It's not our fault that you ain't free, So there's lots of challenges. I'm holding all of it. I'm holding the classism and the privilege, because as a homeowner, you have your eye on different things than you do as a renter, right? I'm looking at how I feel. I'm looking at values. What are the property values? I'm looking at, the things that I want to make sure that everybody in my community feels safe and feel comfortable, including them, right? But there are just certain norms that we operate with in this particular community. I can't speak for everyone, but I can tell you that much, right? There are family of origin stuff. Look, my family was just different. You're a young person. You mind your business. You don't tell our business. There was more constriction around who we were, because of their proximity to plantation slavery, right? They're a little closer. They're one generation closer to plantation slavery. And it's real. It's real. So there's family of origin. There's the personal ways that I roll. My home is my sanctuary. And so I get really worked up when I see that my experience of my home is being messed with by people who don't share the same values, or that people who are moving differently than I move, right? I get the, yeah, it all comes. So we got culture, we got class and privilege, we have generational. Back in my day, family of origin. In my family, all of it comes into play. And so as much as I'm out in the world talking about diversity and inclusion and all of that, when it comes and knocks at your door, and it looks different than the way you feel, your human stuff comes out first. And so I just think I'm bringing this up because the reality is we all have the ways that I think we aspire to be. And the ways that we aspire to be can be pushed when those things that are precious to us are being pushed, are being squeezed, right? So the question is, if you squeeze a lemon juice comes out. You squeeze an orange juice comes out. Well, what comes out of you when you're squeezed? Do you call the HOA? Do you go over there and knock on their door and cuss them out and be like, what the hell is going on here in my neighborhood, and get off my grass? Or do you have a conversation and allow people the opportunity, allow space and grace for them to actually learn? Because if you give people opportunity to do better, sometimes they'll do better. Thank you all so much for joining me this week, and I will see you next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have, please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the things you know to do on the socials, and we'll see you next time.